government on a very full range of national security issues. Avant cela, il a passé la majeure partie de sa carrière au Centre de la sécurité des télécommunications, où il a débuté en 2002 en tant que développeur des logiciels et a occupé divers postes de direction clés dans des programmes de renseignement classifiés, en tant que directeur exigence en matière de renseignement électromagnétique, puis comme chef adjoint. Please join me in welcoming Dan Rogers.
Thanks. Thank you, Nicole. Distinguished guests, members of the press, and fellow Canadians, thank you for joining me today and allowing me to provide you with an update on the security challenges facing Canada. Invités d'honneur, membres de la presse, concitoyennes et concitoyens canadiens, merci d'être ici aujourd'hui et de me donner l'occasion de parler des défis auxquels fait face le Canada en matière de sécurité. It's my first time addressing Canadians as the director of CSIS, and I do so at a time when Canada's national security environment is more complex and dynamic than at any point in recent memory. Polarization and radicalization are on the rise, and social cohesion is eroding. Global events are unpredictable, and competition between states is intensifying. Our global environment emboldens competitors, attempts to interfere and spy, and advancements in technology enable our adversaries while challenging us to adapt. All aspects of national security have risen in urgency and in priority, and the demands on our service are unrelenting, and there is no clear path to a simpler future. But while challenged, CSIS has remained strong and able. We have trusted partners in Canada and abroad, and together with them, we've acted decisively to keep Canadians safe. Our intelligence professionals devote themselves to protecting the rights, freedoms, and safety of all in Canada. Even when they aren't aware of it, Canadians benefit greatly from their work. En parlant aujourd'hui de ce que nous avons constaté et de ce que nous avons fait, j'espère aider les Canadiens et les Canadiennes à mieux comprendre le contexte de la sécurité nationale. J'espère les aider à renforcer leur résilience face aux menaces, à prendre les décisions plus éclairées et se joindre à nous pour protéger la sécurité et la prospérité de notre pays. Je vais commencer par aborder le sujet de la menace liée à l'extrémisme violent. This year marks 40 years since the worst terrorist attack in Canadian history, the bombing of Air India Flight 182. This tragic event killed all 329 people on board, most of them Canadians, and it was a truly terrible moment in Canadian history. It serves as an important reminder of the consequences of violent extremism. The threat of violence, motivated by extreme religious, ideological, or political views, has changed significantly over the last 40 years, but it persists as one of Canada's most significant national security concerns. Today's violent extremists are motivated by an increasingly diverse, often personalized set of extreme beliefs, including xenophobia, accelerationism, nihilism, anti-Semitism, misogyny, extreme interpretations of religion, and more. Increasingly, violent extremists with these different ideologies find common causes through their shared targets. They find inspiration and motivation in the events and trends that polarize society or cause them to lose hope for the future. And they easily access and amplify content online that radicalizes them and reinforces their view that violence is justified to achieve their extremist goals. Worryingly, nearly 1 in 10 terrorism investigations at CSIS now includes at least one subject of investigation under the age of 18. En août 2025, une personne d'âge mineur a été arrêtée à Montréal parce qu'elle aurait planifié un attentat au nom de Daesh. In May 2025, a 15-year-old Edmonton area minor was arrested for terrorism-related offense as RCMP investigators feared they would commit serious violence related to COM764, a transnational violent online network that manipulates children and youth across widely accessible online platforms. And only a few kilometers from this room, in late 2023 and early 2024, 2 15-year-olds were arrested in Ottawa for allegedly conspiring to conduct a mass casualty attack targeting the Jewish community in Canada's capital. Clearly, radicalized youth can cause the same harms as radicalized adults, but the societal supports for youth may help us catch radicalization early and prevent it. This is why CSIS joined the RCMP and our intelligence partners from the United Kingdom, the United States, Australia and New Zealand in releasing a joint public report in December 2024 highlighting the evolving issue of young people and violent extremism. It provides advice to parents, guardians, and others with information to help them identify early concerns and address youth radicalization before it's too late. Fortunately, only a small number of youth or adults with extreme views resort to violence. But when they do, the consequences are devastating. Since 2014, there have been 20 violent extremist attacks in Canada, resulting in 29 deaths and at least 60 victims injured. Ces résultats tragiques auraient été plus élevés si le SCRS et nos partenaires chargés de l'application de la loi n'avaient pas pris des mesures de perturbation. Since 2022, CSIS has been involved in the disruption of no fewer than 24 violent extremist actions, each resulting in arrests or terrorism peace bond charges. For example, in 2024, CSIS played an integral role in the disruption of two Daesh-inspired plots. In one case, a father and son were allegedly in the advanced stages of planning an attack in the Toronto area. In another, an individual was arrested before allegedly attempting to illegally enter the United States to attack members of the Jewish community in New York. In these examples, and in many others I can't discuss publicly, our counterterrorism teams have partnered with law enforcement to save lives. They worked hard, day and night, and I'm deeply proud of their dedication. I hope that Canadians feel safer because of their ongoing efforts and because of their regular success. Cela dit, l'érosion de la cohésion sociale, l'augmentation de la polarisation et les événements importants qui se déroulent dans le monde constituent un terreau fertile pour la radicalisation. Et de nombreuses personnes qui choisissent la violence se radicalisent exclusivement en ligne, par elles-mêmes. Ces personnes utilisent la technologie pour agir en toute confidentialité et en tout anonymat, ce qui nuit à la capacité de nos enquêteurs de suivre la cadence et de déceler et prévenir les actes de violence. C'est notamment pour cette raison que la lutte contre l'extrémisme violent demeurera une partie importante de notre travail, bien qu'elle représente maintenant moins de la moitié de nos efforts. L'année dernière, l'enquête publique sur l'ingérence étrangère et le travail de la juge Hogue ont aidé la population canadienne à mieux comprendre comment les États étrangers ont tenté de s'ingérer en secret dans les processus et les institutions démocratiques du Canada. This past spring, Canada held its 45th general election, during which CSIS focused our efforts to identify foreign interference and take action to counter it. As the chair of the Security and Intelligence Threats to Elections Task Force, CSIS coordinated our country's security and intelligence response and supported an independent panel of senior public servants in monitoring threats to the election. We applied the lessons learned from past experience, Justice Hogue's report, review bodies and others to do this work better and more transparently than ever. We shared the results of our efforts through weekly briefings to the media by senior officials during the election period and in October. Canadians can now read the details in our after-action reports online. In essence, while we did see some foreign interference activity of concern, Canadians can be assured that we saw nothing that had an impact on our ability to have a free and fair election. Le SCRS restera vigilant de façon à détecter les tentatives d'ingérence étrangère dans les processus et les institutions démocratiques du Canada. Nous prendrons les mesures qui s'imposent et qui nous continuerons de fournir des informations à la population canadienne pour qu'elle demeure résiliente et bien informée. Bien entendu, l'ingérence étrangère n'a pas seulement une incidence sur les processus et les institutions démocratiques du pays. Canada is a country that thrives in its diversity and guarantees the individual rights and freedoms of all within its borders. And when foreign states don't share our respect for these rights and feel threatened or embarrassed by the lawful activity of individuals in Canada, they sometimes resort to direct intimidation, influence, or reprisal. We refer to this as transnational repression. Transnational repression disproportionately targets human rights and political activists, journalists, and others in cultural, ethnic, and religious groups. We've observed this in Canada in the form of surveillance, in the spreading of false and discrediting information, extortion, the threatening of loved ones abroad, and, at its most extreme, threats to safety and life. Ces actes ont des conséquences néfastes graves sur les personnes visées. Ils ont aussi pour effet d'intimider d'autres personnes, les dissuadant par exemple d'exercer leur droit à la liberté d'expression. Ils peuvent en outre dissuader des personnes de prendre part à des activités licites de défense d'une cause ou de participer pleinement à la vie communautaire ou la démocratie. As a Canadian institution that proudly defends the rights of all in Canada, CSIS collects intelligence and acts to defend against transnational repression. In the past, we've publicly discussed transnational repression by the People's Republic of China, India, and others. Particularly, in alarming cases over the last year, we've had to reprioritize our operations to counter the actions of Iranian intelligence services and their proxies who have targeted individuals they perceive as threats to their regime. In more than one case, this involved detecting, investigating, and disrupting potentially lethal threats against individuals in Canada. While CSIS can take action to counter transnational repression, we don't often do it alone. Our work with law enforcement often serves as our best defense. Also, alongside Public Safety Canada's Counter Foreign Interference Coordinator, we partner with ethnic, religious, and cultural communities. Dialogue with them serves equally to share our information about transnational repression and to help us better understand their experiences. Malheureusement, la répression transnationale et les autres formes d'ingérence étrangère ne sont pas les seules menaces qui font peser les autres États sur le Canada. Today's geopolitical environment is more dynamic and unpredictable than at any other time in recent memory. International relationships are shifting and states are competing more intensely for economic opportunity and global influence. Our adversaries monitor and seek to exploit any weakness and division that may arise. It's an environment where the value of intelligence is at its highest, and our adversaries will be more assertive than ever in trying to obtain it. Intelligence services have long focused their espionage efforts on those with access to sensitive or classified information. Government and military secrets, including insights into technology and economic strategies, have been the primary goals. Today, while the goals are similar, the targets are more varied. Some of the world's most advanced and emergent technology is now held by private sector and academic institutions. National governments are still targeted for sensitive intelligence, military and economic secrets, but so too are corporations and other levels of government whose data, technological innovations, influence, and access to resources can shift the balance of advantage. Le Canada jouit une économie avancée. Il regorge de ressources naturelles. Il occupe aussi une position enviable et influente au sein des tribunes multilatérales comme l'OTAN, le G7 et le Groupe des Cinq, une alliance des services de renseignement. Les réussites du Canada font de lui un pays prospère. Elles font aussi de lui une cible. Et le SCRS est régulièrement témoin des efforts déployés par les services de renseignement étrangers pour recueillir des renseignements dans tous les secteurs de la société canadienne. Les informations classifiées et sensibles du gouvernement du Canada continueront d'être la cible des services de renseignement étrangers, notamment les services de renseignement civil et militaire de la Chine. Par l'entremise de médias sociaux et des plateformes de recherche d'emploi en ligne, les espions chinois ont tenté de recruter les personnes canadiennes qui avaient accès aux plans, aux intentions et aux informations du gouvernement, ainsi qu'à de l'expertise militaire. En collaboration avec ses partenaires, le SCRS a trouvé des façons de repérer et de contrer ces tentatives au cours de la dernière année. Nous travaillons aussi régulièrement avec Affaires mondiales Canada, le Centre de la sécurité des télécommunications et d'autres partenaires pour contrer les menaces d'espionnage provenant de la Russie. Cette collaboration nous permet, par exemple, d'utiliser les renseignements pour repérer des officiers de renseignement russes et empêcher leur venue au Canada. Notre collaboration avec les partenaires canadiens et alliés nous permet aussi d'affaiblir les services de renseignement russes à l'échelle mondiale. Par exemple, en contrant des tentatives de sabotage par l'entremise des entreprises de messagerie commerciale et de l'industrie du transport. Nos efforts en matière de contre-espionnage ne contribuent pas seulement à assurer la sécurité du Canada. Ils ont aussi autres effets positifs. As was recently highlighted in the media, illicit Russian procurement networks seek to illegally acquire Canadian goods and technologies, which they move to Russia through a complex series of front companies based around the world. Once in Russia, these Canadian products are then used to support Russian military efforts in Ukraine and elsewhere. This year, CSIS took action to prevent this by informing several Canadian companies that Europe-based front companies seeking to acquire their goods were in fact connected to Russian agents. These companies not only took immediate action to deny the Russians their success, but they also expressed gratitude and interest in working together to counter any future Russian activity. Canada is a proud Arctic nation, and the global Arctic has become a theater of increased interest due to its economic and strategic potential. Non-Arctic states, including the People's Republic of China, seek to gain a strategic and economic foothold in the region. Russia, an Arctic state with a significant military presence in the region, remains unpredictable and aggressive. Both of these countries, and others, have a significant intelligence interest in our Arctic, and those who influence or develop its economic or strategic potential. It's no surprise, then, that CSIS has observed both cyber and non-cyber intelligence collection efforts targeting both governments and the private sector in the region. So what are we doing? Well, we collect intelligence to identify any state activity that's counter to Canada's national interest. We engage significantly with Indigenous, Arctic, and Northern partners across Canada to develop awareness of what we observed and to learn from their insights. In essence, we're positioning ourselves to partner and defend Canada's interests whenever it becomes necessary. For example, we've provided Inuit and territorial governments with information that empowers them to take into account national security interests as they make decisions about economic and research opportunities with foreign companies and investors. Les modifications apportées à la loi sur le SCRS l'an dernier ont facilité ces démarches et nous avons l'intention de poursuivre sur cette lancée au cours des années à venir. De plus, nous ne sommes pas limités au Nord. Partout au Canada, nous sommes efforcés de renforcer nos relations avec le secteur privé, le monde universitaire et les autres paliers de gouvernement pour les sensibiliser à l'espionnage et les aider à se protéger. Par exemple, nous avons collaboré avec le Conseil canadien des affaires, la Chambre de commerce du Canada et d'autres organisations, et nous avons l'intention de miser sur ces partenariats pour aider à garantir la sécurité économique du Canada. J'ai fait un survol des menaces actuelles en matière d'extrémisme violent, de l'ingérence étrangère et de l'espionnage, mais j'aurais pu vous en présenter bien d'autres. Foreign governments will continue to manipulate and propagate information in their interests. The threat of hostile, hybrid, and cyber operations against us continues to rise. And the nexus between criminal groups and state actors challenges traditional definitions and complicates our efforts to respond. It will be important for CSIS and its national security partners to work closely together to understand the intentions and activity of foreign states when they act against our interest, and to ensure our response uses the full range of government options. En raison des avancées technologiques, notamment l'intelligence artificielle, les méthodes employées par les États et les acteurs étrangers hostiles sont beaucoup plus sophistiquées. At the same time, Canada's data increasingly resides in the hands of foreign governments and the corporations in their jurisdictions. This arms states who may choose to act against Canada's interests with new ways to weaponize data and information. In response, CSIS will be challenged to adopt technology and use data in new and more significant ways to keep Canadians safe and to secure an advantage for Canada. I understand that what I've covered today is concerning, but my intent is not to alarm. I want to reassure Canadians that CSIS and the rest of Canada's security and intelligence community is here and working tirelessly in their best interests. As the threats shift and evolve, CSIS will continue to prioritize deliberately and ruthlessly and become comfortable with an extraordinary pace of change. Le gouvernement devra relever les défis qui s'offrent à lui et s'efforcer d'obtenir des avantages dans le cadre de ses relations internationales, qui deviennent chaque jour plus complexes. À cet égard, le SCRS jouera un rôle de soutien important et indispensable. car ces renseignements serviront les intérêts nationaux du Canada et aideront à garantir sa souveraineté. Our many trusted intelligence relationships with partner services across the globe will allow us to cooperate to defend our shared interests. Our ability to act against and to engage with competitors and adversaries will give the government options to address security challenges whenever necessary. And as you've heard today, our environment provides real and significant challenges for CSIS. But in my first year as director, I've been continually reminded of one of our greatest advantages. The people of CSIS are passionate and capable. They are deeply proud to serve Canada and have dedicated themselves to defending the rights, freedoms, and way of life that define what it is to be Canadian. As their director, I am proud of their tireless devotion and service of all Canadians, even when their most significant work is often not known and recognized outside of our walls. I hope that Canadians will join me in taking pride in their work and take comfort in CSIS's able and steadfast efforts to keep them safe and prosperous. Thank you. Merci.
Merci, Monsieur le Directeur. J'invite maintenant les membres accrédités des médias à se diriger vers la salle de la Lanterne pour se préparer au point de presse avec le directeur Rogers, qui débutera dans 15 minutes. Other guests are invited to remain and to join us in continuing the discussion, where we will encourage fierce debate. Once again, thank you very much to all of those who are here in person and those tuning in online. Your participation and engagement is an important avenue for encouraging a strong national security dialogue, which will help to build a strong and resilient Canada. Thank you et merci.